All right, so for computer programming A, this was your most recent assignment. You made a bouncing ball. You weren't using objects just yet, and the ending part of the lecture, where we go over the methods, that's the new stuff. You're going to be making a ball object and making that ball object do the same thing as you see here, bounce around the screen in a certain order. In this case, the student chose to do counterclockwise. You could later on add in some randomness here to make it bounce differently, but we'll keep it simple for now. And the student, they came to me with a question. They were a bit unsure about how this would, if this was okay. And pretty much this is how it would work. If you didn't use the move, the bounce, and the show functions as specified in the prompt, well, it just makes the object-oriented part a little bit harder to see. So over here, like if you look at the student's code, it's your standard variables, your setup, and then down here, this is where all the action happens. This is your draw function. Oh, my bad. I forgot to. Thank you. I forgot to share. I started one video but not the other. That better? Okay. So like here's a lot of you have completed your bouncing ball. A couple of you haven't completed the bouncing ball assignment yet. So this is one student's example. And just going over the key parts. There's your variables up here. There's your setup. Down here is all the draw function, right? This is with like the main part of your code. And like we're just trying to separate certain behaviors. We want functions just to have one job. The draw functions is going to call all those things. So like one of the more simple ones is like the show function, which asks the ball to show itself. Okay, there it goes. I'm a little slow. So, oh gosh, I can't see my cursor. Show. Goodness. Like that. And all you'll do is you'll move this stuff here into your show function. And that's the show function's only job. It's to show the current position of your ellipse. And notice when we wrote a function for that and moved it away outside the draw function, it no longer draws. That's because you haven't used it yet. Like this. And then you'll see it refresh, and then we're back to normal. For this student, their move function is pretty good, but the idea that I think confused a lot of you was this, the directions. I think it was up and right, for example. Those ones, it didn't make much sense. So those things, the right and the up variables are called booleans. So those are either true or false. It's like a light switch. It's either on or off. So if you're going right, you're moving positively in the x. And if right is false, well, that's just another name for going left, the opposite direction. Left and right are opposites. You can only move two directions on the x-axis, similar with up and down. You can only move two directions on the y-axis. So instead of having 4 different variables for that, because there's 2 pairs of opposites, we just have 2 of these direction variables. So that part's important because if you're like the student here, move x, it actually does 2 things here. It controls like the speed, and it also controls the direction. So they've kind of lumped that into one. And that could later on cause some unintended side effects. Like, for example, it could have been a really common issue if you're working on your bouncing ball, and after when you're moving diagonally and suddenly you hit one of the walls, your ball stops moving, right? Well, that's one reason for that during your development was could have been because you got your directions and your speed messed up, right? One's affecting the other and you didn't know that was the case, which is why the suggestion was given, okay, separate your bounce, which purely controls direction, and then separate your move. So I can dig up someone else's code in contrast to this. Here. Right. Right. Beano's Pong. Gosh, CodePen is being really slow. Perhaps I should close some of my tabs. 1 second. Okay, let's hope that this moves a bit better now. Okay, so here we have the up-down variables. The screen's bigger than it can fit. Here we go. And now notice the difference from before, right? Now we have a move function. And inside move, all it does is add to the x and y based on the right and the down variables. And then the bounce function, all that does, well, it does two things. It also changes color. So that was the new addition that the student added. But here, all it does is change the values of right and down to either be true and false. It decides whether or not it's bouncing off the respective walls. Okay, most of you got it. Some of you still need to turn it in. Here's a big hint. If you pause the video slowly, you can pretty much rewrite this code and get this assignment done. Now, I'm going to demonstrate a simpler version of the ball. It's probably just going to move up and down or left or right. And I'm going to demonstrate the syntax, or the specific way you write the code, right, the spelling for these words, for an object-oriented way of doing similar things. So for your assignment that's due this Friday, or something like that, yeah, Friday, it's going to look visually the same compared to your first bouncing ball assignment. And that's the output, but the code is going to be restructured a little bit differently. And you're going to build on this code for these next couple of assignments to ultimately get to Brick Breaker. All right. Any questions? Computer programming A. And B, things I wanted you to think about right now is that you've done this once before. You're going to do this in Python, and you're going to create those methods ideas, right? And that is what I'm going to demonstrate here. So your goal is to figure out the Python part of it. No, not dashboard. Stop. Pen. My computer is rather slow in the morning. I'll try to close more tabs. Let's see if that helps. Come on, CodePen. All right. So we'll pull up a pen, and some things I'll be coding is ball that bounces left and right, and we'll change the syntax so that it is, so like in the slides, right, towards the end, so that they're methods, so that the move and bounce and show functions, they explicitly belong to the ball class. So it's not just a bunch of variables anymore, or it's kind of like variables. They're still going to exist, but now they're within a class. Okay, there we go. Things are loading. It's like us right now. The computer is getting warmed up. CodePen is waking up. Come on. All right. So here, let's see. We'll have function setup, like we always do. We'll define a rather small canvas, maybe 200 by 200. Okay, we'll make the background a grayish color. And then just to convince ourselves that everything's working, we're just going to draw an ellipse onto the screen. at maybe 100, 50, 50, just to see that everything works. Sometimes CodePen can be finicky. Okay, there we go. Nice. And so, what we did before, right? We'll start with the show function. We did function show, and all we did there was we moved this ellipse, right, the drawing code into here, and we called show. So now it looks the same. Let's have it move across the screen. Function move. And we're going to have the, what is it, let x equal 100. And in move, we'll just have it do it once, right? It just keeps moving across the screen. Related to the slide deck, what I'm demonstrating right now is also incremental development. I'm starting step by step with what I want. I add on to it, modify it, I click the run button, I see that it works, and then I go on to my next step. Versus like I could plan it all out, write all the code at once. Where's my cursor? There it is. Okay. X equals x plus 1. Cool. All right, I didn't call my move function. It's going to leave a trail. That's okay. Boop. Okay, so far so good, yes? All right, so we got enough. And here's the new stuff. At the very top, we're going to define it like this. Class. It's going to be called a ball. Notice that for objects, you often capitalize the first letter in its name. Think about these as fancy variables. In the slides, we called them programmer-defined types. Well, this is us defining what it means to be a ball. Because a ball has an x-coordinate, right, it's going to look like this. Okay, the x-coordinate, and using the dot operator, now belongs to this ball class. The this keyword refers to this specific ball. That's the one that's being drawn to the screen. Later, you're going to see that there could be many different objects, so they'll all have different names. But in this case, the this keyword refers to you, right? Or the word I in English when we're talking in a sentence. The show function then looks like so. Show, and sometimes I mess up the syntax. Show equals, like that. This is where my JavaScript gets a bit fuzzy. Equals function, and then parentheses, ellipse. Let's pull it right. And then you'll go, previously it looked like this. When we turn it into an object, suddenly, if you write this, the computer's going to complain because the x variable is going to say it's not defined. You have to add the this keyword in front of it. And just to check, just like from before, we're no longer going to use the move and show like this. When we define this new ball object and its simple show function, we can now, like over here, say let Bob equal new ball. Do I need parentheses? I think so. Like that. So now Bob here is an example of a ball object. If I run my code, I should see nothing on the screen. Also, JavaScript shouldn't complain. Fingers crossed. I should still see a gray background. Doesn't seem to be the case. So I probably messed up on my syntax somewhere along here. I think it's this part. I don't remember if there's a this keyword. Oh, probably like this. There we go. Show like that. Save and run. Nope, it complains. Unexpected dot operator. Pretty sure you need that there. Alright, let's comment this stuff out. Let's just have a ball be defined. Does it like that? Cool, it does. No, it doesn't. What did I do wrong? I'm pretty sure this is what it looks like in JavaScript. Alright, gray screen, new ball. Let's just try to print. Oops. So in my slides, you'll see me use console.log a lot. Console.log. We're checking to see that the Bob's x coordinate actually exists, like that. And so now when we click run, and we click on this console, we should see the number 100. And right now it doesn't. Oops, clear this. Yeah, we see 100 a bunch of times. Great. So we know that part's at least right. It doesn't seem like you. Oh wait, maybe it's because of this one. No, it's bob.x. So that's okay. Bob.x is different than actual x. So if we change this to like 101, we know that everything's good so far. Gosh. Yeah, when we press 1, we see nothing on the screen. And I've demonstrated some of the new syntax for object-oriented programming. Now, the new part about methods, how do we make the show function belong to the ball class? That's where I'm having some trouble because I messed up on the syntax. When I go through and between so many different languages, it becomes hard. Come on. And so while we're waiting, in Python, all you do is indent it into the function. That's as much as I go over in the lecture. You indent it in instead of like copy and pasting, because Python is like space sensitive. You indent it over so that it's inside the inside the ball class or inside whatever class you're writing. Goodness. Okay, I'm not quite too sure why CodePen is being so slow. So as we wait, the idea looks like this much, right? This keyword, I'm not sure why it's not working here. It looks like you may not need it for these variables that belong to the ball object. Like another hint for your assignment is you're going to move all those variables you made associated with the ball class, like speed, like x or width or direction. You're going to move them all here inside the ball class. Come on. And so if someone could quickly pull up my slides, remind me about the syntax. I think I used this in the print time function in JavaScript. There's a certain way to define methods in JavaScript. So that's what I'm messing up on right now. I don't know where the parentheses go. I know the function keyword needs to be there somewhere. I got signed out of Google. So computer programming A, do you have questions for me so far? Yes, please look at your old code. The weird thing about JavaScript is there's other ways to define it too. I don't have a class. Okay, great. You accomplished the assignment without the objects. Cool. That part is nice. So what the student just linked in chat was the JS version. That's the object definition. If you scroll down a bit to the later slides, like after slide 60, you'll see something about the methods. That's the new idea this week. Yeah, my Chrome, everything's being really slow right now, so I can barely, like, I have to wait 20 seconds for something to load and then open. And it might be my recording software in addition to all this. Okay, I'm afraid to modify my code pen at this point because it might make things even slower. So if you scroll down, there's the print time method, and I demonstrated the syntax for JavaScript methods. Somewhere there's a this, somewhere there's a function, there's a squiggly bracket somewhere in there. Gosh. And it loads so slowly, slide by slide. Okay, we're almost there. Hooray. Slide 40 something. Nope, not that one. This is still Python. And the JavaScript code, go down to methods. Sweet. All right, right here. There's silly highlights. There we go. Okay, so print time, you need parentheses, and then you have to close it. All right, we can do that. You don't need the function keyword. I think that's one way how I defined it last year. All right, there we go. So this should now run. We should expect to see a ball in the center of the screen. It doesn't move. Of course, it doesn't show up because although we're printing Bob a bunch of times, we can close the console now because we know it works. We haven't told Bob to show himself. So that's the other new syntax. All right, hey Bob, use your show function. When we run this code, now we see the circle on the screen. Ta-da, and it's back. Notice that if we try to call Bob's move function, nothing's going to happen because we haven't written it yet. But syntactically, that's how you would make a line of code to have it move across the screen. Boop, and then it complains. Okay, great. So then up here, you have to write your move function. Move, parentheses. This is what it means to move. This.x equals this.x plus 1. Now when we run our code, Bob knows how to show, Bob knows how to move, save and run. We get that animation of it dragging across the screen, just like from before. So up here, for those that just joined, we are rearranging our code a bit to make it fit the object-oriented way of programming. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, Amelia. So we still keep with those same three functions, show, move, and bounce, but now we're moving them into this ball class. And this is what it looks like. Any of the variables associated with a ball now go here, and they look like this. Now this is the ball's specific x coordinate. if you wanted to add more stuff, like for example, y coordinate, like make it move diagonally, like that. And then for this one, this dot y equals this dot y plus 1, you can do so. But most of your code that you will add happens inside the ball class, and this is Pong part 2. Now you're doing this in object-oriented manner. And you won't see the benefits of this until much later down when we do like Brick Breaker, for example. It might seem very tedious right now. It's a bunch of moving code around. It's going to take a while for the benefits to pay off, and that same goes for the Python class. That right now, because it's all new, we still got to pick up this new way of formatting stuff. We can't appreciate the benefits just yet. Okay, save, run. It didn't move sideways. Why not? Oh, here. There we go. Now it moves sideways. For my sake, let me see what happens when I do this. Yeah. So you do need the this keyword to be there. That's the new word for you in JavaScript. And in Python, you'll see that the this keyword, the Python calls it self. Okay. So there's your code. I'll share this on the Computer Programming A School classroom. I just wanted to demonstrate how you get started on restructuring your code in an object-oriented manner for your Pong assignment 2, or Pong part 2.